In the early days of boxing, some experts used to call this thing the tails of the tape. And they use these tails of the tape, to predict the future success of athletes' boxing career. Because remember how big boxing was, right? The tails of the tape was basically a series of physical measurements of the fighter. It was things like your fists, your reach, which they still use today, your chest expansion, your weight, a lot of those metrics. And many believe that this process would help them predict who was dominant, who would dominate the sport. There was one boxer who failed every single measurement. They gave him an early predicted label as a failure because he was, quote, not a natural, right? Not even by a long shot, they said. So February 25th, 1964, a fighter named Cassius Clay, we now know as Muhammad Ali, right? Was at the time Cassius Clay was set to battle the current champion Sonny Liston. Ali, like I said, was, quote, not a natural. He had great speed, but didn't have the physique of a great fighter. He didn't have the strength. He didn't have the classic moves. In fact, he boxed all wrong. He didn't block punches with his arms and his elbows. His punches were in rallies like an amateur. He kept his jaw exposed, which is a huge no-no. He pulled back his torso to evade impact of oncoming punches instead of moving side to side, which a lot of people said that's basically like trying to run from a train by running backwards and not jumping off the tracks, right? That's Muhammad Ali. Sonny Liston was labeled as a natural. He had size, legendary power, experience. Liston was widely considered at the time one of the best heavyweights of all time, still kind of is. Beating Liston at the time was so ridiculous that when the fight happened, the arena wasn't even full, which was not something that happened for a championship battle. They assumed this is a walkover, this isn't going to happen. Here's what the tails of the tape didn't show. Ali's strength was actually his mindset. Right? He obsessed over all of his opponents. He studied them inside and out. They said he would listen to their interviews just to listen to how they think. He would go talk to people who knew him well, or even who just had conversation with him, just to get a little bit more intel on how that person's mind worked. And he would stay up all night just understanding the psychology of that one fighter. And that was his edge. Ali said after the fight, he would say, quote, Liston had to believe that I was crazy, that I was capable of doing anything. And he finished it with, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Your hands can't hit what your eyes can't see, right? And as we all know, he went on to win that battle, right? Ali won the mental state well before the physical. Instead of looking, and here's why I tell you this, instead of looking in the mirror and him saying, I'm not good enough, he literally said that famous quote that we all have heard, right? I am the greatest. And he really was. That's the tails of the tape, Muhammad Ali.